Welcome, dear friends, to another special webinar of our sustainability discussions here at Illuminem. Today, we're gonna understand the tricks, the secrets of mastering stakeholder engagement for all of you, sustainability leaders, and specifically chief sustainability officers. So as you know, we're gonna have an informative and unbiased discussion on the world of sustainable development from the perspective of the engagement and the relations that are around us. This webinar will be, of course, recorded, available to you on YouTube and on Illuminem.com. And we will have a 15 minutes introduction with our incredible expert and guest speakers. We will have a 30 minutes panel discussions, and we will leave the last 15 minutes to any questions and concluding remark. So, without any further ado, presenting to you is Andrea, the founder of Illuminem, and I immediately take the honor of introducing this stellar panel, and I start in alphabetical order from Alex Arbillotta, the CEO and co-founder of AWorld, that we thank for being the promoter, being the mastermind behind today's webinar. Alex is connected live from Turin, in Italy. He is the co-founder of AWorld, as you mentioned. And let me stress, AWorld is the only platform, the only app chosen by the United Nations Act Now campaign to drive climate change and sustainability engagement. So we're going to hear a lot of stories starting from this unique perspective. Something more about Alex to make him already well known to all of you, and a friend to those of you who don't know him yet. He previously worked in the world of fashion as president of BlueFly.com, developing strategic B2B solutions for the fashion industries. And I see here already the smile of Greg coming right after. And in this function, you're already collaborating with figures such as Tommy Hilfiger and Richard Cohen. So I'm curious to ask you some fun facts afterwards, Alex, and good welcome to you. Second, and from New York, live, another close friend of all of us at Illuminem, Greg Meyer, the Chief Sustainability Officer of Steve Madden, or maybe let me tell all the many titles of our Greg. Greg serves, as you know, as the Chief Sustainability Officer, but also as the head of CSR, as the head of ESG, and also as the president of Steve Madden Corporate Foundation. He brings extensive legal advocacy expertise across private, corporate, nonprofit sectors. In his role, he has the privilege of leading all initiatives to enhance Steve Madden industry environmental footprint while mitigating all possible negative impacts. And just to tell you another fun fact, me and Greg, we spent hours discussing the concept of integral ecology, how to make well in a sustainability role. We need to start always from respecting our people, our communities, and every possible other stakeholders that he will narrate to us today. Third, from Abu Dhabi, Maria Fluda, a sustainability trailblazer and the founder of Sustainability Switch Consultancy. Maria is a sustainability leader with expertise in ESG, diversity and inclusion, and green growth. She founded this renowned consultancy, advising organizations on their sustainability strategies. And also, she serves on boards of several organizations driving the Sustainable Development Goals agenda across Europe and the Middle East. And not least, she's recognized as a top voice worldwide by LinkedIn. Last but not least, I'm glad to present you from London, another power lady and friend of Illuminem, Sandhya Sabapati. She's the head of environment, the head of ESG at Entain, the FTSE 100 company, known as one of the world's largest sport, betting, and gaming entertainment group. Sandhya is a leader with an extensive experience in ESG and even more in social impact, in diversity, in initiatives that she led at several Fortune 500 companies. And she's passionate about social impact and environmental impact. building partnerships. So welcome today together, Alex, Greg, Maria, and Sandia. How are you doing?
Great, thank you. It's good to be here.
Great. Let me then give the floor to Alex in alphabetical order for this first moment of reflections and presentation. And I want to kick off the debate today asking you, how difficult is to change behavior? How difficult is to fight against those that don't want to change, even when change is a clear, better outcome for everyone?
Absolutely. Thank you, Andrea. As you mentioned, I represent AWorld. We are a tech company based in Torino. Our goal is to create culture of sustainability. As you mentioned, I come from the fashion industry. I worked in New York with Tommy Hilfiger and many other, also in the luxury business. I ended up in Asia serving a company in the fast fashion industry. Long story short, went to see one of the factories, saw the impact that we had on this industry had on people and on planet, and then said, look, I can't be doing this anymore, or at least I can't be serving this specific industry. Was we were selling $2 t-shirts, and it was and once I saw the devastating impact, I said I can't be part of this. As I mentioned, AWorld was born to create culture of sustainability, really understanding how do we guide people towards sustainable living. I saw it myself. I saw the impact of my actions, but the truth is that today we're so distracted and learning something new becomes complicated. The truth is we don't understand the impact of individual actions. Our individual action could be divided in what do I eat, how do I move around, the energy I use, and what do I buy. And behind every choice, there's an impact. It could be positive or negative. I mean, there's a carbon impact for anything I do. We make hundreds of choices on a daily basis. We buy products, we buy services, and some of these have a bigger impact than the other. We went down this route in understanding, okay, how do we really get someone and we bring them from point A to point B? We need to scale this to millions, right? I mean, we know that if we want to see an impact, we need to engage millions of people across the world. So technology needed to be at the heart of this. And what we did is we put all our energy into building AWorld, which today is an app and platform that wants to reach people where we have our attention, which is on our devices today, and give you tips and knowledge that help you learn about what sustainable living really means. And then it gives you a set of features that help you measure and track your carbon footprint. I can tell you that no one out there outside of our industry of what we do in the sustainability environment, no one knows what a carbon footprint is. So there's a first educational part that we need to provide. We need to help people first understand what a carbon footprint is and how they can track it. Second is, how do I pass along knowledge that we should know, knowledge which could be about circular economy, for example, about mobility, energy consumption, then tapping into something which might not be directly climate related, but into social issues too, all under the SDG umbrella. And then after the measuring part and after the educational part, the engagement part comes in. So how do I guide you towards taking that specific action that relates to you? And there's a lot of studies that we did here. A lot of behavioral science goes into this, a lot of research on how do we nudge behavior. We've packed knowledge and technology with gamification because we've learned that changing behavior is extremely difficult. And we use different techniques to get you to act. Some of us are triggered by sense of self-improvement. I'm going to do specific actions because it makes me feel better. I wish that was the case for everyone. It's not enough. Some of us are triggered by a sense of community. I want to be part of a community of like-minded people exactly like me. Some of us are triggered by gamification. You're going to put a leaderboard out there. I need to be first, whatever it takes. And then there's a big rewarding part, which is, okay, help me do this task and I'll reward you with something intrinsic or extrinsic together. Imagine all of this in one experience, which is called AWorld. The mission today is to engage millions and bring this to millions. We luckily then met the UN. You mentioned Act Now. AWorld is the only platform that supports the Act Now campaign. The UN has the Sustainable Development Goals, and then it has Act Now, which translates the goals to people and wants to make them actionable. And this campaign is supported by our platform that wants to engage people on a daily basis. So you can find our app on the UN's homepage. It has 23 million climate actions today across the world, downloaded in every country. And luckily, it also supports big organizations to engage employees and consumers. So we know that we are within a transition. Organizations could have the power to drive meaningful change. And we then launched multiple products with over 100 companies from all over the world that want to change from the inside, and then also change changing the inside with the employees and then changing the consumers too. How do we change behavior is extremely difficult. We're fighting against a few big beasts. The biggest beast is the intention behavior gap. If I'm going to ask you, do you want to save the world? Everyone says yes. Are we really doing it? Maybe. So we intend good, but we don't always act upon what our values are. And then the diffusion of responsibility is something else. Someone else is going to take care of it. There's going to be my government. There's going to be the CEO of the company. The mayor of my city is going to be doing this. So there's no me part of the equation, which I think is a narrative that we need to change. We're all pieces of a huge puzzle, and we're going to fix this only with everyone on board. That's the real truth. And we need to remind ourselves that we could be heroes every day by making small changes in our daily lives could add upon driving huge impact. And unfortunately, to gap this intention, the intention behavior gap, we need to use different techniques. Gamification and rewards are part of those techniques to see long-lasting change. And today it's working. We're engaging millions of people all around the world by generating awareness and triggering climate action, which is measurable too. So we receive a lot of data from all this activity, which is helping us to tailor-make experience. We live in a personalization era. All of our social feeds are completely different, are tailor-made to our behaviors, to what we like and who we are. So if I want to see your behavior change, you can't tell everyone don't drive. You might not have a car. Well, I might have a car. So I need to create a personal experience just for you if I want to see you change behavior. So a combination of all these factors put together in one platform, which is a digital platform, is really helping, and we can measure the impact so far. So we're grateful for that. Oh, you're mute, Andre.
Sorry, I was already excited to tell you later. I want to ask you a lot of questions of what all these numbers are now telling of our behavioral changes and so on. But to reconnect, it's not easy. We got it. Changing behavior. Of course, only few of us is something that already comes out of inner willingness. For many others, we need some tricks, some gamification probably throughout the journey. And I love that thanks to you, Alex, now I think over 20 million actions have been recorded, action for the better. Now you already make me connect to something that I discussed with Greg, right? Because some solution, some driving change in an environment may completely fail in another environment. So I want to bring you, Greg, on stage and immediately give you the chance to tell a bit of your story, but also to tell me why it's so important to understand the different context to really make this change possible.
Sure. Well, thank you, Andrea and the Illuminem team for inviting me to participate. And it's actually kind of an easy follow after Alex's comments, because everything he talked about really is applicable, not just globally, I think, as he was speaking, across the world and everybody in every sector, but in any complex or even simple organization. Steve Madden is a global organization with lots of different moving parts, a very complex supply chain and different units across the globe. So there's multiple different stakeholders, multiple people at different levels of understanding around sustainability. That makes it a challenge. You have to kind of speak differently to different stakeholders and different key players. As I had mentioned, or you mentioned, my background is as a lawyer. I came first as Deputy General Counsel here at Steve Madden and ultimately took over the role of forming and heading up our CSR, our sustainability team. And part of that work is really just continuing my work as a lawyer, as an advocate. Steve, our founder, wrote a book a few years ago, recognizing as ESG emerged as a key topic around our global business, and he daydreamed saying, "I would like to make fast fashion sustainable." He has already, in several different iterations of his life, altered the whole landscape of the footwear industry, and part of that dream or that effort to transform our industry into a more sustainable business model has really been my objective to sort of fulfill that goal. So as an advocate, when I talk to stakeholders like investors, we're a public company, there are certain issues that they are concerned about. They want to see where the companies in their portfolios are navigating not just sustainability from the environmental perspective, but we define sustainability quite broadly at Madden to include social mission and social impact, diversity, equity, inclusion, the people connection that you mentioned in your introduction. Really important to us to see that holistically. And it's true, as a fast fashion company, this is a very complex job to transform. So when, particularly in the environmental area, so we really play very hard at all elements of E, S, and G, because sometimes we could be more successful and advance further around the social issues while we kind of transform our sustainability program, back through the supply chain. That could take quite a bit longer period of time. But I guess that I would say the core piece is that you can't, for me as an advocate and altering a company's mission and transforming it to be something that it never was, it just requires ongoing personal advocacy. It requires building trust and connection to leaders in different divisions and brands that the company holds. It requires traveling around the world to our different units far and wide, where values, although are under the Steve Madden umbrella, but depending on where people are based, there's different motivations, different versions of what we call sustainability, and trying to unify that message, that mission has been really a lot of the work that we've done over the last 5 years. And I point out 5 years because I was reminded that this project of ours really had its 5-year anniversary in August over the summer. And looking back, we've accomplished a tremendous amount of work, but the truth is it's really just the beginning. It's now really the foundation that we stand on to look ahead and truly do the work that I think Alex talked about, and I'm sure Maria and Sandhya will as well. So without going further until there's some questions, the point being there's just you have to navigate multiple different stakeholders. Each one has a different motivation, and therefore you have to sort of adjust your mission and your communications and your efforts accordingly, always with a holistic perspective from on top.
For the friends at home, I just want to stress that we're just warming up, because I'm sure there is much more beyond those words that people is at the core, and of course the context is everything. And maybe like on this angle, I bring the mic to you, Maria. And I know, Maria, like your job is fascinating. It's translating sustainability insight, let's call it sustainability knowledge, into measurable actions, right? Please build upon what we heard from Alex and Greg. And again, good welcome to you here with us.
Yes. Thank you, Andrea. And I just want to echo whatever Alessandro and Greg said. I work with a lot of cross-sector companies in different maturity when it comes to sustainability and ESG. And stakeholder mapping and stakeholder identification is one exercise that I'm surprised to get to know that is new to many companies. Although stakeholder identification and mapping is an exercise that every company should do, regardless of if they have ESG within their agenda or not. We have to know who are our stakeholders and where are the limits of our stakeholders. And with ESG, even if there was a limit on our stakeholders, Now with ESG, I think there is no, the borders of where our stakeholders stop are limitless, because sustainability, we cannot confine it in with borders, right? So it goes beyond. So when it comes to identifying and getting engaged with the stakeholders, we have to first of all identify and answer the question, what is it in for me? So when we engage with different stakeholders, we have to identify first what is it in for them. So why they should be involved in this process, what are they going to gain, what is the profit out of this process? Because we have to translate sustainability into profitability. Otherwise, everyone is running a business and they're not interested if there is no profit involved. So if we are iterating that we're doing sustainability and you're going to have to invest, and we don't know if there's going to be a return or how long it's going to take you to have this return, we need to have to quantify, identify what is it for every stakeholder, specifically when it comes to shareholders, owners, business unit owners, CEOs, executive leadership. Quantify this to prepare our business case, our business plan, our case studies, benchmark very importantly with different competitors and other stakeholders, either within the same region or even globally, and get these success examples and failure examples to first of all get the buy-in and quantify what is it for us when it comes of us as a division, as a company, as a stakeholder. Once we identify, then we have to create awareness. Alessandro very well iterated that we have to create this general awareness from a personal perspective up to all levels of the stakeholders. We have to create this great awareness of what is ESG, why we are doing it, and engage each and every one of these stakeholders and make it become a boomerang. What I want to say is make them want to get involved in the process, because if we're dragging people all the time in this process of ESG and sustainability, we will not achieve our ultimate goal. We have to make them want to be involved, and we have to incentivize them, obviously, identify, quantify everything, drag them into this process with their own will, make them ask us that they want to report on all the aspects, and then continue the journey from there. From the other side, we have to make it also user-friendly. So we have to break it down to the language and to the terms that each stakeholder understands. So if it is the community involved, we have to break down to the terms that is relevant to them. If we're talking about division, different divisions when it comes to procurement, IT, human resources, technical divisions, etc., supply chain, we have to break down to their terms. So we have to break it in a very small pieces, understandable, and get the buy-in. Once we have the buy-in, then the whole process will be running more smoothly and we will be more engaging. Plus that we will be able to hand it over, and it's not going to be a people dependent process. So because we have companies, and I have seen a lot of companies, that they have a person who is driving everything, but when that person leaves the company, everything drops. So we have to make sure that we have created a robust culture, ESG and sustainability culture within the company, that this culture is able to drive sustainability, even if we have people turnover, people leaving, restructuring within the companies, resizing within the companies, expansion of the company. So we have to create this culture and buy-in from everyone, from all the stakeholders, and this culture will be able to sustain this journey of sustainability, because it is a journey, it is not a destination. So I'm just going to stop here, and then we can continue building on that.
Already so many points, Maria, and definitely made me reflect, right? That we need to have that buy-in, that clicker, or otherwise nothing happens. But maybe implicitly in your saying that we need to make it user-friendly, we need to bring it down to the language of every division, every stakeholder, implicitly open to us a big window that often those divisions, those different stakeholders have generally different priorities. So with this, I probably pass the ball to Sandia. Of course, welcome again. Please also add some words about your great work of leading the environmental impact in a betting gaming entertainment company. But also, let's bring back to what Maria was telling us. We have different priorities, and we need to ensure that an outcome is there still in that situation. To you, Sandia.
Thank you so much for having me. And as I was hearing everyone saying, it keeps popping into my brain that sustainability is both an art and a science. It's so interdisciplinary. It brings together experts from all over the world. And I'm really passionate about movement building. So I started off in my sustainability journey in public policy, and then I moved on to head up a corporate foundation, so similar to you, Greg, but it was UK focused. And then I moved over to the public sector side to support companies in setting up shop in the UK, especially companies that are very positive in the ESG and social impact investing space, and focus on community regeneration and well-being. But at Entain, I think that this is something that most large FTSE 100 companies face at the end of the day. You've got internal stakeholders, external stakeholders, and we operate in 25 different countries and have 30,000 different people. So I think transparency is probably a very top priority for us. And we've got this massive alphabet soup going on when it comes to standardization, regulation, as well as all of the financial disclosures that large companies have to do. But I think maybe the most important thing is, as long as you have a very clear strategic narrative, a good red thread that passes alongside all of your communications, your actual business strategy, both the commercial as well as the people aspect of the strategy as well, I think is super key in sustainability. You almost build this foundation that allows you to start building on not just having a top line net zero target or a top line high level, this is a diversity and inclusion target we want to hit, but start working on action plans that multiple regions, countries, as well as departments can contribute to. So I think transparency is a big thing. The other thing that I see that's probably something that large organizations tend to miss is actually finding out ways to create feedback loops. As sustainability evolves, and this is not just the environment space, the S and the G as well, regulations are going to move from just kind of policy aspects into something that's absolutely mandated. So creating surveys, real-time dashboards, and like active roundtable meetings with investors, it creates this safe space where you can have conversations about sustainability without the commercial teams, without kind of external suppliers as well being penalized. And tied to the fact of the feedback and the transparency, I think is that a lot of the large companies that I've come across, and Entain also falls in this bucket, we're almost kind of towing the line of greenwashing and greenhushing all the time. We want to make sure we're transparent and we say the right things, but we don't want to be accused of one or the other. And the way I think that that can actually be propagated, and this is not just in the UK, of course, globally, is that the feedback loops and the mechanisms of these roundtables that you have, it needs to be something that's transparent well in advance. Just like you plan your board meetings, you plan your annual reports, it's quite important for you to also kind of publicly talk about internally and externally, when are these conversations going to happen? When can external participants take part? When can the wider organization take part as well? This helps break silos, because for large organizations, it's silo central, and it brings a bottom up and a top down approach. And it helps people who are maybe working at a shop or building a particular product to also engage with the wider sustainability agenda. And it stops becoming just this high level top thing targets that large companies do, just because they're now mandated to do so. And I'll stop there.
Actually, all of us, we read hundreds of papers, theories, tips, but actually, I really love, Sandia, what you just told us. In some way, the best way to break silos that are natural in any organization is to first create a safe space where we escape the two traps, the traps of greenwashing and traps of green ashing. Maybe from there, I call you back on stage, Alex, and ask you, maybe do you have a case study, something that with AWorld, you proved possible to escape those traps and bring the change we want to see?
Well, first of all, I love what was just said. So the transparency behind decision making, Sandia, Maria, talking about mapping the stakeholders and making sure that everyone is incentivized. We're going to win when this is profitable, we know. So we're still, us here, still pushing the agenda till this becomes profitable for everyone. And Greg saying the advocating part, we need to advocate in every area of the organization. I mean, we're the first ones in the organization promoting the sustainability agenda, but we're not going to win if you don't have loads of the organization on board. I think we said this last week. There shouldn't be a sustainability team. Everyone should be a sustainability manager in their own role across the entire organization. So I think it's I love what you guys said. Luckily, on our side, everything we do is measurable. So as Sandia mentioned, there's a fine line between greenwashing and greenhushing. I think there's a lot of greenhushing right now because everyone is scared about saying anything, because otherwise you're going to be accused right away. Luckily, everything we do inside of the platform is tracked, is mapped, so you cannot fake it. Is real impact that your stakeholders drove. In this case, we could talk about the employee part. The organizations that we work with understand that the sustainability agenda that you give as a sustainability manager cannot be achieved if you don't have all of your stakeholders on board. There's actually a stat there that says 70% of the effort, 70, of a sustainability manager or head of sustainability might not be successful if you don't have your employees part of the agenda. Otherwise, you're fighting by yourself, basically. These companies understand that. The companies that we work with understand that you need to align every stakeholder to the same mission. Understand that integrating sustainability principles in decision making is extremely important, because you can be fighting for your organization out there, but if someone in communication or someone in procurement doesn't know the principle of sustainability, they're not going to make the right choice. So you need to have everyone on board on what your mission is and what sustainability really is. We should have all general knowledge, and then we should incentivize sustainable behavior in the organization. I actually heard some companies out there giving bonuses based on how you reduce your CO2 emissions in every role. So I see companies adopting these kind of techniques already. We have a case study with Cognizant. With Cognizant, we've launched a challenge with more than 15,000 people on board. These employees were asked to take specific actions and participate to challenges with rewards. 15,000 employees generated over 780,000 actions across the first 3 months, completing 196,000 episodes of educational content. And all this is mapped by the technology that we provide, and is all mapped on the SDGs. So you're starting to look at the different levels of what am I contributing to, and what are the topics that I'm promoting? What does my company know and what we don't know as an organization? What are my employees are looking into, and what they're interested, what they're completely disinterested in? Which actions they're taking, and where am I reducing my impact and when CO2? We just released a new feature that allows you to, this is completely optional, but the app tracks your mobility. So it tells you, Alex, you walked today 2 miles, you use the car, and then use the plane. And then you get rewarded every time you walk, use a bike, or use public transportation, basically. And that's all tracked by technology. So we can share with the organization, hey, your 1,000 employees came to work and were rewarded to come to work. on this day with a specific CO2 reduction, that's extremely important. So to go back to what Sandia said, this could be part of a transition. We know that we're not going to fix it all by one solution. Is a combination of solution is a big puzzle that we need to put in place. But when it comes to people, having something measurable helps. Having something that generates the power of community, leverages that community to show there's other people taking action with you in your organization is essential, because otherwise people think that they have to do everything themselves and they're not going to have an impact, because what am I going to do alone against 8 other billion people out there? So these are some of the case studies. Happy to share more, but it's all tracked, it's all measurable, and you can account for that and use that for your ESG reports, any sustainability report, and also internal or external communication.
Indeed, I love it because I feel it's contagious, right? When you see that your colleague has done that action and he's proud of it, he's probably even arrogant in a beautiful way. Oh my God, I actually could change that habit, and now I'm walking more. I'm even saving because I don't know, I take a different meal instead of the other. These of course is the power of giving a good examples and rewarding it. Maybe just as a fun fact. If we take the example of Cognizant, those 15,000 people, there was a single action that was, let's say, more common than the other, more popular.
Energy and water saving are big. So energy could be something as simple as switching off the lights when you leave an office. You'll be amazed by small habits that are still not part of a daily routine. We have a combination of actions that you can do at work and at home. Some of the ones are at home are also hilarious. You'll be amazed. I mean, and I need to tell my mom this. Shut the water when you're brushing your teeth, right? Like, please. Some of these are also individual actions that you can do at home, which you can still record on the platform. I would say energy related, when it comes to heat and air conditioning, are some of the most used. Also up there in the top 3, there is vegetarian, vegan meals. Those are easy. We're about to release a new feature where you can take a picture of your meal and we'll tell you the carbon footprint based on what's in what you're eating today. And that's going to be part of a new release. So I would say energy, water, and food related are the top actions that we see in the platform.
I can wait, Alex, to make a picture of my meal. And indeed, if it works with your mom, I think it should work for all of us. So glad to hear these stories of concrete change. And allow me to move from the micro picture, from that beautiful image of the mother of Alex, to the macro picture. So the change that, Greg, you're trying to bring about in a huge organization, into a company that is known to be a global leader in the fashion industry. So I want to ask you, in that big picture, how do you overcome all the roadblocks to impact and innovation?
Well, I would say first that you don't overcome all of them. I mean, it's really important to remember that this process, change, transformation, results in great successes sometimes, but also definite losses. And I think that we have to be really confident about overcoming those losses, not getting set back. And a big concept around here is this notion of progress, not perfection. We in our space, I think, have truly heartfelt belief in the importance of our work and the necessity for the work. It's sometimes we're not able to do the work fast enough to the objectively real crisis that we're facing. But outside, like Alex said earlier, outside of our world, so many people just don't have the time or energy or interest in understanding these concepts. So definitely come across some failures. But that being said, I'm really drawn back to what Sadaya and Maria were talking about earlier. Transparency, to me, and what I've seen over the last several years, is really the true coin of the realm. I mean, people expect companies to do better, and there's no question about it, though, as Alex said earlier, there's all kinds of things people think, and then it's differently what they do. But as a company, just being transparent and honest is about the difficulty of this work, I find has been very well received in all kinds of different audiences, both internally and externally. And I think the way that you build transparency, at least for us at Madden, is creating this culture of learning where on a monthly basis, we started about 5 years ago, just hosting Steve Madden learning sessions. It was coming out of the pandemic. We figured out this thing called Zoom. We didn't have to fly people from all over the world to have a company retreat for 3 days and shut things down. We just had to send out emails to everybody saying, join us at 2 p.m. or whatever the time was globally. And we would invite and continue to do this to this day, different speakers, sometimes be very specific to a topic around sustainability and footwear production, perhaps, but also sometimes just thinking about how to navigate a challenging world when we were all in the middle of COVID, shut down, unsure of what the future would bring, and really everything in between, from broad-based think projects to very specific work around the Chinese office's new success or Europe's effort to launch this shoe or that. And that creates that community, that creates that sort of baseline of knowledge that we can all work from. And most importantly, like Alex said earlier too, but I think we all are alluding to, until everybody is on board, we're really not going to be successful as sustainability leaders inside an organization. It's shared work, and it's more than shared. Until it's embedded and operational from across the organization, it won't be an ultimate success. So that's the work that we really push hard on at our team, is to really bring people in, not just with the learning sessions and other educational opportunities and promoting learning and development in general with our HR team, but by having seminars and having people join together to share it in the work and to see why it's important for them to share in this work. And I guess one last point I'll make is this question of incentivization is so important. And again, for companies like Madden, who clearly know how to incentivize sales over the last decades of any company through monetary reward, it's not so simple. It seems to me to be simple. Just start rewarding people with more money for accomplishing lower carbon goals, or more diverse hiring goals, or more social impact goals, or so on, or more learning and development per team. But it takes a little bit longer to sort of adjust a company's philosophy to be rewarding things that were never part of that reward structure before. And in order to do that, and this is my last point, is that you truly, you talk about, when you learn about sustainability and how to advance it in a company, they talk about embedding sustainability, like we said, across all different functions, but most importantly, in the leadership structure. So the first thing that we did when Ed, our CEO, and Steve, our founder, asked me to sort of take this on, I said, before I take this on and we form a new department, you guys have to form a committee of the board that will lead the work and demonstrate not only internally, but externally to our multi-stakeholders, whether it's the companies that we sell our product to on a wholesale, our investors on Wall Street or globally, that you are taking this seriously. And I think that's been a really important element of the success that we've had. And when I say success, there's so much work to do. I don't even want to rest on any laurels, but the fact that we don't have to argue to leadership that this is an important objective, but that leadership is sharing with me, and I can leverage their engagement, the fact that they have a committee that I have to report quarterly and annually to the board on these topics, that allows me to have a little bit more influence in advancing the mission, and again, trying to embed the work with our partners across New York and really the globe.
Greg, all the friends of Illuminem already know you as one of the rare believer and true examples of the power of transparency, the power of learning. And what you mentioned before about the Steve Madden learning sessions and seeing hundreds of people arriving to learn, and you telling them, guys, we need all your knowledge to make this change happen, speaks on its own. Now, of course, if you allow me a provocation, I take the first of the questions from the audience, and I see here Jerome Smith. Jerome is asking you, okay, this transparency internally works, and is also valid, this transparency, when communicating to external stakeholders, to communicating to your customers?
Oh, Is the question, is it important to be transparent externally?
Yes, transparent externally as much as we want to be internally, or probably there are certain things it's better not to say.
Well, that's a really great question and a fair point. And I think everybody else could speak this besides me, but from a public company perspective, when we have not only our own desire to be better, Steve Madden believes in science. We recognize the need to transform a historically non-sustainable business model into something better. So that sort of goes without saying. But the truth is in this day and age, transparency is being mandated by global regulations, particularly in Europe, where we operate and hope to grow. So it's not really a choice in the matter when the EU requires all public companies or companies of a certain size, with Madden included, to report transparency in their supply chain, to report transparency around their carbon footprint and their targets for reduction. We don't have a choice in the matter, but the truth is many customers who are also public companies, not the retail customers, but our wholesale customers, they too have similar public commitments and obligations to operate under regulations that require their transparency. So thankfully, because it's not easy for a public company that never talked about certain things to be transparent, but because our own customers are demanding it and the regulatory authorities globally are demanding it, it's easy for me to convince leadership that we have to be transparent and publish our annual sustainability report and set KPIs and demonstrate when we're making them and when we're not. It's pretty easy. It's like a no-brainer. They can't say no, so we have to go forward in doing that. But I guess the one last point I'll make on that is it's also something I've learned from Steve and Ed, our CEO, is that we don't want to be promising things that we can't achieve. We want to be, not get too over our skis, to under promise and over perform. Of course, we'll promise whatever we're obligated to under the rules, but we want to be cautious, not so much because we're afraid of being accused of greenwashing, but because we want to get it right. We don't want to overstate our capacity to do things when we're also in the midst of a transformational effort that could take years, if not a decade, from a company that's a legacy company that never, like I said before, had to navigate a lot of these issues.
I hope our Jerome is happy, and feel free to continue the discussion. I see many questions arriving, but before I pass it to you, Maria, and I'm sure you can add your good methodological angle in telling us on how then we can measure, we can report this progress that our Greg was mentioning us. I guess we need to activate your microphone. Thank you, Maria.
Yeah, sir. So I'll pick up from what Sandy and Greg just mentioned about transparency. And first of all, why do we have to measure and report progress? So the why can be translated in two ways. Like Greg said, we are measuring and reporting because we have to, because the regulations are there, because we're a listed company and we have to do it. And the second is because we can and because we are committed to do so. And the first message that I try to reiterate to all companies, cross-sector, regardless of the size, is because you want to measure and you want to track your progress. It is not only about because you have to, right? So there's plenty of ways to capture this, right? But we have to be transparent first of all, to understand internally where we stand. And because progress is a journey, okay? We can report on a year to year and just let the years pass without having any progress, right? But we need to, when we measure, we need to have in mind how we're gonna progress and how we're gonna improve and where do we want to get and where do we want to reach, right? So we always measure and report with progress in mind, because progress doesn't come automatically. We can report for 10 years with zero progress or with a decline, right? So how do we do that? Technology. So Alexandro very well iterated, the hundreds of ways that we can capture this information, and we can translate it and we can cascade it and we can incentivize through technology and now AI that everybody is using. But also another thing that I have seen also in a lot of clients, and I'm also asking them to look into that, is while reporting, try to identify an opportunity that you can make it profitable, right? And we see a lot of companies that they have developed the technology internally, and then they just branch it out and they make it a different business, be it either software, an ESG software, or any software, any measuring tool, or an efficiency innovation or invention that they have applied, and then they branch it out and they make it a different business. Recently, I was speaking with the head of Schneider Electrics of their sustainability consultancy unit, which I never knew that they had. And apparently, they're like more than 200,000, I think, in that unit, and they have developed their own software that they branch it out not only to Schneider Electric existing clients, but also to globally, like to any other clients that have nothing to do with the Schneider Electric's products or services. So measure, report, monitor and like scale up your progress, obviously through your strategy, through your goals, objectives, KPIs, but also try to identify the opportunity, the business opportunity there. There's always a business opportunity. So why to make all this effort? Why not to combine it all together and make it also a business opportunity? So technology is there to help you measure and report, but always we have to have this innovative thinking and always engaging approach of how we can evolve it to serve us and make it more profitable as well.
Of course, you're amazing because you make us seem simple things that are taking an entire life cycle for a company. So we love that ultimate simplicity. Maybe I keep you for an immediate question that was coming from our audience. In this case, is from Teresa Johnson. That is another great friend of Illuminem. She's the partner, the head of ESG at Arnold Porter, the leading US law firm. And she's asking us, so Maria, how do these companies using sustainability achievements to their own competitive advantage? Maybe can you give us some example of an upside in the market?
I will give you a recent example, okay, it's a very simple example as well, but with a lot of impact. I was recently, last week actually, in a Forbes Middle East Sustainability Conference here in the UAE. And what Forbes did is they issued, obviously we have many sustainability and ESG awards and different type of awards, but they've issued their Sustainability Middle East Awards for companies, different sectors of companies, including leaders of these companies on sustainability. So immediately after that, I had two of my clients calling me and saying why we're not on these awards. So how do we use sustainability in our advantage in any way you can think of, you know, even for example, this conference in my case triggered the leadership of certain companies to do more on sustainability for their own agenda because they wanted to be in the Forbes list, but that it doesn't matter. The goal is to be there, which means you have to take A, B, C, D actions, which these actions, even if you're only looking at the award, they will have so much impact in so many different areas on ESG. So it doesn't matter actually, you know, the ultimate motive, which is just an award, and we shouldn't be looking, you know, only to get an award. What I'm looking is at the impact it's going to create, which is going to be huge, and the awareness that creates. So a simple conference, these simple awards that they issued, it's not simple, I mean, the whole process of awards, that it triggered the market here to want to get into this list next year. So there's, this is just an example. There's so many other ways that we can, you know, take sustainability into our own advantage.
Indeed, Maria, we probably need a full second webinar to discuss about that soft line between a fair reward, like many of these are seem to be, and that space of promotion that ultimately bring sustainability to be too often considered another marketing function. So I keep this for our next chat, but in the meantime, I'm calling into the stage again, Sandia. And now, Sandia, I wanted to ask you first about this cross-department collaboration that you mentioned before. So I wanted to ask any approach you found effective, any incentive that worked. We always love to hear concrete examples of success, and to you to tell us more.
Of course, thank you. I mean, I think Greg, Alessandro, and Maria talked a lot about the external engagement bit. So I think that I'll move towards what we kind of do internally at Entain that has worked. Probably the most important thing is to have very clear governance. And when I mean governance at all levels, which can translate into the safe spaces that I talked about before as well. So we've got a board level of sustainability and compliance committee, but we've got 5 or 6 action groups that we call net zero action groups that feed into said committee. Now, these action groups can be cross-departmental, like procurement, facilities, marketing, or it can also be regional. So for example, we've identified 6 countries that are carbon intensive and are struggling with the transition to move towards net zero. So we have specific net zero action groups for those countries so that they can turn their action plan into something that's quite tangible. And finally, we also want to have a little bit of fun with environment and sustainability. There can be a lot of trying news about this space. So we've created this community called Zero Heroes, and there are a bunch of people who wear zero on their shirt and run around. It's quite great. And they are kind of our metrics masters. They help us collect primary data from across the board, ensure that all of our information is not just estimates, it's data that we can actually rely on that's coming from on the ground, as well as we've got cheerleaders. These cheerleaders are responsible for organizing thousands of events across the world tied to environment and net zero. So it generates this positivity that, you know, Alessandro mentioned as well. So it's not just this kind of top down, we've got 6 board committee meetings a year, but it's also people going out and doing activities so they feel like they're part of the entire agenda. So that's probably an important thing, the governance. The other bit that I wanted to touch on was similar to what Greg mentioned. We do have an academy for this space. And the reason why I'm a huge advocate for education in general, but the reason why this is important is because the space is evolving at such a breakneck pace. And we realize that our board, our executive committee, as well as managers in general, are not able to keep up with what's happening externally and what that translates into actions that they can have across the board in their sphere of influence as well. So I definitely recommend companies to build their own sustainability academy or use multiple platforms that are available with like great CPD verified courses that you can help people with. I very much believe that just like every company is now a tech company, every company very much should be a green company as well. And I think that, you know, training is the way forward when it comes to building those connections between departments.
Right. For our listeners, we have the last 3 minutes of this webinar. Time flies when we have engaged discussions. So I allow myself to immediately ask you a second question, Sandia, and then I will give 30 seconds to each one of you to like close with a powerful message. And we go in reversing order. So we will close with our Alex and the friends of AWorld. So Sandia, starting from you, I think we have the smile of another Illuminem fan at home, Elizabeth Course. She was just mentioning this point of climate education. And here we understand that too often sustainability is defensive. instead of offensive, in the sense that we have limited budget already for those regulatory requirements, that spending on sustainability knowledge seems to be the least of the priority for a company. So yeah, the question is, does it really matter to enable the organization to understand the key issues and risks of sustainability, or did you find any shortcut?
I think it's a great question. And just on the finance side, Greg mentioned this as well. We've got a lot of regulations that are coming into play, CSRD, CSDDD, all of the other acronyms, and most of them require a percentage of financial commitment for organizations towards sustainability. It could be climate change, it could be social impact, could be diversity, inclusion, whatever it may be. So what I would encourage is use that as leverage to get more widened regional budget for this space, because if it's a financial model that's required over 5 years or 10 years that you are going to disclose and report, it's something that most organizations will be held to account. So I think that, you know, if take the benefits that comes from the mandatory regulations. The other bit is the global team, which is my team, is responsible for creating the frameworks. But what I see has worked is ensuring that for the local transition plans, ensure that they get to pick NGOs and social enterprises and action groups that is actually relevant to them. This makes it much easier for them to unlock local budget, because a local MD or a CEO will be able to resonate with what's happening on the ground, as opposed to setting commitments that are just global led. So yeah, having a mixture of those two, I think, is key. And when it comes to resources, I'm sure it's across the board the problem that most sustainability teams are really small. But how we kind of operate is ensuring that we have identified volunteers in multiple different departments who give like 0.3% of their time or something like that from an FTE perspective. And then you build that momentum so that it stops becoming your 5% or 10% sustainability team, but it becomes a 20-30% team of about 60 people who give a portion of their time. So that's probably what I'd recommend.
And maybe in 10 seconds, Sandhya, what is the biggest lesson do we bring home today?
You know, we talk about reporting, metrics, regulation, climate science, and I think the reason why I got into this space is because I have a huge passion for it. And I kind of wanted to make that maybe my final statement. Don't forget to just be passionate about climate change, to be passionate about the environment, because that translates. I see that a lot in youth, and whenever I feel like I'm waning in energy, I just talk to a young person, and that brings me back to life. So yeah, stay passionate. It's a multi-generational problem, but people need to be involved in it their entire lives and then pass the baton. So that's what I'd say.
Thank you, Sandhya. Maria, what on top of stay passionate, stay green?
So passionate about sustainability. That's why I left the construction sector 3.5 years ago to go on this journey. So I would echo Sandhya and what I also have communicated a few times with younger people who, in university specifically, is don't try and train yourself into sustainability. Find sustainability in what you love. So if what you love is fashion, find it in fashion. If what you love is IT, find it in IT. If what you love is finance, find it in finance. Sustainability is everywhere. It is not something that you go on a course and you learn. Obviously, you can educate yourself. So that's the one closing remark. The second one is, for businesses, translate sustainability into profitability. Otherwise, there's not going to be never any budget when you want to do anything that is into the ESG box. And when you translate that, then make it user-friendly, like I mentioned before, for everyone to be able to understand, and understand also what is in it for them. So everyone is going to do something either because they're forced to, or because there's something in it for them. And this is what we have to make sure that we embed within our organization, for everybody to understand what is the value of sustainability, which is within their own role in the company. And of course, outside as well, that what Alessandro said. Yeah, that's the messages from me.
Powerful. Greg, to you for a final message. And I ask you as well to unmute your microphone. Just build some suspense. I was all...
Oh, sorry. I always think I won't do that. I just want to echo both Maria and Sandhya. I think that at Steve Madden and in fashion in general, our retail customer, the employees that we are hiring, we have a sign on the wall that says the youth are at the gates. And the truth is this is all inevitable, and there may be people from different generations or even younger people that somehow don't get it and are going to stand in your way. But the truth is this is a train that has left the station, and companies that want to be successful into the future must navigate this space and include it and make it simple and incentivize and embed it across all functions. And there'll be some obstacles, there'll be lots of challenges, but stay passionate, stay clear, recognize it's all inevitable, and be part of the solution instead of standing up against it would be my encouragement.
Love it. Since I will leave shortly the honor of closing today's session to Alex, let me say from our side at Illuminem, a big thank you to all of you that connected live. Even the same thank you to the many of you that will receive this recording over the next hours via your emails. We have over 700 registrations that will receive this conversation. From all of us at Illuminem, a big thank you to Maria, to Sandhya, to Greg for having contributed with so many insights to this debate. And now let's close at best with a thank you to all the friends of AWorld, the only app that has brought the gamification to positive actions with the support of the United Nations, and to you, Alex, to close our discussion on stakeholder engagement.
Well, thank you, Andrea, and the Illuminem team. I would love to extend a huge thank you to Maria, Sandhya, and Greg. We said passion, we said make it profitable. I think we should say also we're going to make it together. You're going to go, if you're going to go fast, go by yourself, but if you will go further, we need to do it together. And I think together is the only way through. So together, we need to be the advocates, knowing, as Greg said, it's not going to be easy. We're going to fail sometimes, but we still need to look up and look forward. And then we need to bring all our stakeholders together with us. It's going to be my suppliers, my employees, my consumers, because there's only one way out of this, and it's together, 100%. We're not going to do it by ourselves. So I want to extend a huge thank you for all you being here, who's listening. Can't wait to see the recording and then answer any questions through LinkedIn or emails. Let's stay connected. So thank you all, and see you soon.
Ciao.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.